Hey, this is Colin Way, and this is going to be my video of me going over the lumbosacral plexus. So basically how the lumbosacral plexus originates, it's going to originate or form from your spinal nerves T12 to coccyx 1. So I'm going to start labeling that over here. So we'll grab my pencil. Okay, so like I said, it's going to start off on thoracic vertebrae 12. This is going to move into lumbar vertebrae 1, lumbar vertebrae 2, lumbar vertebrae 3, lumbar vertebrae 4, lumbar vertebrae 5. This is going to move into sacral 1, sacral 2, sacrum vertebrae 3, sacrum vertebrae 4, 5, and then your coccyx 1. So that's basically the spinal nerves that start off the lumbosacral plexus, but the lumbosacral plexus is divided off into certain different plexuses in regards to the spinal nerves. So for instance, your L1 and your L4 spinal nerves, this is going to be your lumbar plexus. So your lumbar plexus is your L4, L2, L3, and L1. So coming off your lumbar plexus, your sacral plexus is going to come off from L4 to S4 and everything in between. So this is going to be your sacral plexus. And coming off this, there's actually another plexus that's found here, and it's found from S4, S5, and your coccyx 1. And this is going to be your coccygeal plexus. And basically what your coccygeal plexus is, so like I said, it's going to come off, it's going to be formed from fibers S4, S5, and your CO1. And basically what your coccygeal plexus is going to innervate is that it's going to innervate basically the skin found in this coccygeal region. That's basically all that this coccygeal plexus is going to be known for to do mainly. So that's kind of the setup of the coccygeal plexus. But moving back to the lumbar and the sacral plexus, there's a special portion that's found right here between the L4 and the L5 spinal nerves. So this L4 and L5 is special because this is going to be where your plexi come together. So your L4 and L5 is going to be what combine the lumbar plexus and the sacral plexus together to form the lumbosacral plexus. So this region is going to be called your lumbosacral trunk. Lumbosacral trunk. And that's basically the sum of what each plexus divided into. So now we're going to move into the roots. And basically how your roots start off is your roots are basically just going to start off and they're coming right off to your spinal nerves. So the roots are going to come up like T12 comes straight off, L1 starts straight off. And the order it does this is still going to start into your divisions. So from roots, we're going to move into divisions. And the reason basically how the lumbosacral plexus differentiates from the brachial plexus is that the lumbosacral plexus just has roots and divisions, while your brachial plexus, had roots, divisions, cords, branches, and all that. So your lumbosacral is just divided into roots and divisions. So coming back into divisions, how divisions work is that there's actually going to be anterior and posterior divisions that are involved with the lumbosacral plexus. So to differentiate these, I'm going to turn the anterior and posterior into different colors. So your anterior divisions are going to be in red, and the posterior divisions are going to be in blue. So that's the way we distinguish where each one's going. So starting off, we're going to start off with the lumbar plexus. But before we get into the lumbar plexus, there's going to be a spinal nerve that's not involved with the lumbar plexus. And this is going to be your T12 spinal nerve. But the reason that your T12 spinal nerve is included within this video is because it's important to the lumbar plexus because fibers of it are going to come off and help form a nerve that's found within the lumbar plexus. So starting with your T12, the T12 root is going to come off and as a division on the anterior side, and it's going to form the subcostal nerve by itself. And like I said earlier, so L1 is going to come off anteriorly, but the T12 and L1 are actually going to combine fibers to form their own nerve. So that's why the T12 is included here. So the T12 and L1 are going to combine fibers anteriorly to form the iliohypogastric nerve. And coming off from that, from L1, L1 is just going to go anteriorly by itself and form its own nerve. So it's going to form the ilioinguinal nerve. Okay, moving off that, going to L2. L2 is kind of different because the L2 division starts on the anterior side of the body, but then it's going to move to the posterior side of the body. So, but before it does that, it's going to combine fibers with their L1. So L1, L2 are going to combine fibers, and they're also going to form their own nerve. So L1, L2 combine fibers, and they're going to form the genitofemoral nerve. Before I move on to any of the other nerves, I just want to distinguish that these three nerves, their main purpose is to, they innervate the abdominal wall as well as the genital region. So that's basically what these three nerves, their main job or innervation is going to be. Like I said, it's going to be that genitalial region as well as the abdominal wall. So moving off this and going back to our L2, like I said, the L2 starts anterior, then moves posteriorly. And then fibers of the L3 are actually going to come together with fibers of L2 to form a nerve. And this nerve is going to be your lateral femoral cutaneous nerve. Lateral femoral cutaneous. And since we know that this is the cutaneous nerve, we're going to know that this nerve innervates the skin, our sensory and the skin is basically what this nerve is going to innervate. So coming off this, we actually have another nerve that comes off the posterior side, and it's going to be when L2, L3, and L4 fibers come together. So L2, L3, and L4 on the posterior side, all these come together to form the femoral nerve. And your femoral nerve is going to innervate quite a bit of muscles. It's going to innervate the iliacus. It's also going to innervate your sartorius, as well as your pectineus and your quads. And most importantly with the quads is going to be your vasti muscles and your rectus femoris. So in regards to your vasti muscles, it's going to be like your vastus medialis, your vastus intermedius, and your vastus medialis, intermedius, and lateralis, those three vasti muscles. So coming off that, we actually have another muscle that originates or comes off the L2, L3, and L4 roots of this division. But this division is going to be on the anterior side since your femoral is on the posterior side. So like I said before, portions of L2, L3, and L4 are going to come together on the anterior side to form the obturator nerve. Like your femoral, it's going to innervate quite a bit of muscles. It's going to innervate your pectineus, your gracilis. It's also going to innervate your adductor muscles as well as your obturatus externus muscle. So that's your obturator muscle. There's also another nerve that's found here as it moves anteriorly. That's the obturator nerve. That's your obturator nerve. There's also going to be a nerve that's found here anteriorly, and this comes off of your L3 and your L4. And this is going to be known as your accessory obturator nerve. Basically, what your accessory obturator nerve is going to innervate is just going to innervate the pectineus is the main job of what it's going to do. And basically, that's all the nerves that are found within the lumbar plexus. So now we're going to move into the sacral plexus. And to start off the sacral plexus, this L5 is going to come off anteriorly, but I'm going to stop it because it's going to be used in a certain nerve that's going to be talked about later in the video. So coming off L5, moving to S1. S1 is actually going to come off posteriorly, and it's going to combine with fibers of L4 and L5 to form a nerve. And the nerve that the fibers L4, L5, and S1 are going to form is going to form the superior gluteal nerve. Okay, so the muscles that are going to innervated by the superior gluteal nerve is going to innervate the gluteus medius as well as the gluteus minimus. So those are the main muscles that are innervated by the superior gluteal. Going down to S2, it's kind of like the S2 is kind of like the superior gluteal in that it's innervated or in that fibers come off of other nerves as well. So fibers come off spinal nerve L5, S1. I don't know why that went way down there. Fibers come off S1, S2, and S3. My mouse went a little wacky there. So fibers of L5, S1, S2 are going to come together, and they're going to form the inferior gluteal nerve. So since the superior gluteal nerve is innervating those gluteus medius and minimus, the inferior gluteal nerve is going to innervate the gluteus maximus muscle. And that's the main muscle that it's going to innervate. And I'm going to shake my hand over here. Otherwise, the slide's going to turn off from me not moving. So coming off that, We're now going to move into another nerve that's found here, but this nerve is going to be found on the anterior side. And this nerve forms when fibers of S1, S2, and S3 come together. And they're going to form the posterior femoral cutaneous nerve. And once again, since this is a cutaneous nerve, we're going to know that's going to be sensory, it's going to innervate the skin. Going back to the posterior side, there's actually a nerve that's going to be formed from fibers of S1 and S2. It's going to be found on the posterior side, and this nerve is going to be known as the nerve to the piriformis. And considering that this is the nerve to the piriformis, we're going to know that the muscle that's going to be innervated here is going to be the piriformis muscle. Moving off that, we're now going to go anteriorly. And there's a muscle that's found, or sorry, there's a nerve that's found when L5 and S1 come together on the anterior side. And the nerve that's found here is going to be the quadratus femoris, or the nerve to the quadratus femoris. Okay, so since we know that this is a nerve to the quadratus femoris, we're going to know the muscle that's innervated here is going to be the quadratus femoris, as well as the gracilis inferior is going to be innervated here. And going off that, there's also another nerve that's found when L5, S1, and S2 fibers come together on the anterior side. And the nerve that's going to be formed here is going to be the nerve to the obturator internus. Okay, and since we know that this is a nerve to the obturator internus, we're going to know the muscle that's innervated here is going to be the obturator internus muscle, but it's also going to innervate the gracilis superior muscle. So going off that, there's also one more nerve that's found here. It's on the anterior side, and it's going to be formed from fibers of S2, S3, and S4 coming together. And the nerve that's found here is going to be the pudendal nerve. And concerning what the pudendal nerve is going to innervate, the pudendal nerve is actually going to innervate the external urethral and anal sphincters. Is the main job of what the pudendal nerve is going to innervate. And that's basically some of the nerves that are found in the sacral plexus. So now we're going to move on to a nerve called the sciatic nerve. And how the sciatic nerve works is that it works when two other nerves come together to form it. So the sciatic nerve is going to be formed by the tibial nerve and the fibular nerve. So basically how the tibial nerve is going to be formed is that it's going to be formed anteriorly. So it's the anterior side of the sciatic nerve. And it's going to be formed when fibers of L4, L5, S1, S2, and S3 come together. And they're going to form, like I said, the tibial nerve. And like I said, it's also going to be on the anterior side of the body, or anterior side of the leg. It's going to make up the anterior portion of the sciatic nerve. And coming off that, so the posterior region, we're going to have the fibular nerve. And the fibular nerve is formed when fibers of L4, L5, S1, and S2 come together. And they're going to form the fibular nerve, which is also the posterior side of the sciatic nerve. Okay. So moving into what muscles are innervated by the tibial nerve and the fibular nerve is going to be a lot. We're going to start on the tibial nerve. So even though the tibial nerve starts off on the anterior side of the body and it's on the anterior side of the sciatic nerve, the tibial nerve is actually going to innervate muscles that are found on the posterior side of the body. So, the muscles that are found that the tibial nerve innervates is that it's going to innervate your triceps surae muscles, so your gastrocnemius, your soleus. It's also going to innervate your semitendinosus, your semimembranosus, your plantaris and your popliteus. Oh, there goes the light. Come on. Turn on. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, we got those 6. And then since on the posterior, it's going to be muscles posterior, so that's going to be flexor hallucis longus and your flexor digitorum longus. It's also going to innervate your tibialis posterior and your long head of the biceps femoris. So those are the muscles that are innervated by the tibial nerve. So moving on to the fibular nerve is actually divided into two divisions. So the fibular nerve is divided into a deep division and a superficial division. Superficial. Okay, kind of like the anterior tibial nerve, even though it originates, like the fibular nerve, even though it originates on the posterior side of the body, it's actually going to innervate muscles that are found, it's going to wrap around, it's going to innervate muscles that are found on the anterior side of the leg. So some of the muscles that are innervated by the fibular nerve is going to be the fibularis tertius. It's also going to innervate your tibialis anterior, the short head of the biceps femoris. Then it's also going to innervate your extensor hallucis longus, your extensor hallucis brevis, and your extensor digitorum longus, and your extensor digitorum brevis. And those are the muscles that are innervated by the deep fibular nerve. Now moving on to the superficial fibular nerve. Superficial fibular nerve, actually, it's going to go around, even though it starts posteriorly, it's going to go around, it's going to innervate muscles that are found on the lateral side of the body. So some of the muscles that are innervated by your superficial nerve, it's going to innervate your fibularis longus and your fibularis brevis. And those are the only two muscles that are innervated by your superficial fibular nerve. And like I said before, these two muscles, the fibular nerve and the tibial nerve, form the sciatic nerve. Okay, I think that pretty much sums up my video for the lumbosacral plexus. I hope everything was kind of eligible. I hope I didn't talk too fast, and I hope it's understandable. Thanks.